Okay. Thank God, Baruch Hashem. Everybody here should know that it's mamash a miracle that I even got to Miami. If not for our very, very chashuv uh, uh, student of Tzion and essential part of our organization, the one who gets these classes out to everybody and encourages everybody to come. If it wasn't for Benjamin Roberts, I mamash wouldn't have made the flight. I mean that literally. So first off, thank you to him. That in his chut that we're here, and also that he's the one who spoke to Gedalia in the beginning. So the whole thing is, the whole trip should be in Benjamin's chut, and that these classes that we do here tonight during the day should be refuah for everybody in his family, and it should bring him tremendous nachat, happiness, and joy to know that even now he's doing tremendous things and he's helping a lot of people, and he's worthy and valuable. And Ezrat Hashem, that he and all of us should also believe in our own worth. That even though we seek to do more and we yearn to do more, and but not to lose sight of what's happening right now. I remember I was stopped actually. It was a weird night. I was coming out of Arvit, and or I taught a class actually. I was teaching our Likutey Halachot class when we first started doing this a few years ago, and a very random person who I never met came up to me after the class and started speaking to me. It was a very unusual conversation, and then we left, and we walked together out, and we spent like hours speaking to each other. And he said, David, did you notice? Did you think it's weird that we're out doing this right now, speaking this late at night? I said, no, not really. I didn't even notice like what time it was. He said, do you realize that nobody else is out on the street right now speaking like this? I said, no, I didn't think about it. So he said, to help somebody in the middle of the night during the week, to be out on the street with them at the late hours of the night, just talking and trying to help each other, is very unusual. And I said, yeah, I guess you're right. And then he started to tell me things about myself and things about me since I was a child. And I was so overwhelmed by the conversation, how much he knew about me and how much he understood about me, even though he never met me, seemingly. I remember I just started to cry as he was talking to me. He had to come over and give me a hug. I'm not going to get into all the details of what he said to me right now, but one thing that he finished with, he told me, David, I know that you have big plans, and I know you want to save the whole world, but don't forget that you're already doing it. I said, yeah, okay. He said, I'm serious. He said, you're already doing it. Don't wait until the very end to appreciate that. And I've thought a lot about that since then. And it gave me a lot of yeshuv da'at. And it's true, because the Torah teaches that literally every single Jewish person is a whole world. And if you could help one Jewish person, you literally saved an entire world. So, for those people who are involved in Tzion, that we've had a lot of blessings, a lot of miracles, really mamash, since the beginning, but also a lot of struggles and tribulations and challenges, individual, collective. And I'm sure everybody, to some degree, especially us, is waiting for that end, when the whole world is happy and in peace and having fun together and getting along and connecting and being real and genuine, but not to forget each step along the way is equal to the final as well. So we're finishing a halacha in Likutey Halachot. This is halacha. 1 second. I'll just make sure I'm in the right place. So we're finishing the halacha about Hanukkah. And like we spoke about last time, Hanukkah is a very big deal, especially by Kabbalah and Chassidut, by the teachings of the Arizal, what happens on Hanukkah, and then obviously the Hasidic masters and the Baal Shem Tov feeling like Hanukkah was his Chag, and we're learning now why it was such a big Chag, and that is that the entire nace of Hanukkah, the entire Iker of Hanukkah, is that it's the only time of the year, so to speak, that Hashem not only doesn't demand that a person reaches and ascends to higher levels to be able to experience him, but that he bedavka goes into the homes of the sickest people, that he goes into the homes of every person, no matter where he's holding, and he comes to you. And he says that this is the concept of a tzaddik emet, that this is the concept of a true tzaddik, a genuine tzaddik. Now, what does it mean? You know, people always say to me, oh, what is this whole thing with the true tzaddik? Well, there's many tzaddikim. There is many tzaddikim. So why are you saying that Rabbi Nachman is different? Why is Rabbi Nachman saying that he's different? Why do his students say he's different? Well, there are these other tzaddikim, they're not true tzaddikim. So they are tzaddikim, they are real tzaddikim. But what is this concept of this tzaddik emet that Rabbi Nachman is speaking about, that all the Hasidic masters speak about, that the Arizal hinted to and alluded to? That is not just that he is able to obtain very, very, very lofty levels himself. And not only, but especially that he now, his main desire now is to bring that down to those people who are furthest. You know, you see that there's a lot of people that they attain very high levels on their own. And you see that they do tremendous things in learning and teaching and praying and davening and having a group of people that he helps them grow, that they inspire others. But ultimately, all of these things are easy compared to going down and badafka, trying to help those people that are the furthest. This is very hard, because as Rabbi Nachman says, that we all have free will. And because of that, and those people who are furthest, all of the trials and tribulations that they have, both external, internal, all of those blockages, all of those experiences, to be able to get that person to help them, that they should be able to help themselves and to make changes to elevate from their darkness in their life is so hard, and it's taxing, and it's challenging, and it's a lot of weight to hold. And that your whole entire mindset every day that you wake up is to do that is a lot. And very few people are willing to take that burden. You know, to go into yeshiva and to have people come to you, people that are already motivated to want to learn, people who maybe already have some sense of connection to Torah, to its wisdom, and have an appreciation for it, have a desire to want it. You know, obviously it's a beautiful thing that Rosh Yeshiva can connect to that person and help them grow. And it's amazing. And Hashem loves it. But it's another ball game to leave the yeshiva and literally travel to those people who are furthest and to lift them up from their darkness when they may not even want to get out, or they may not even have an initial desire to leave, or they may not even know what you're talking about. That is a whole nother beast. And then on top of that, and this is the last essential part of what makes the tzaddik emet, besides the fact that he has these divine asagas, he has these tremendous revelations of godliness himself, and also in a conjunction to that he has a rutzon at all expense of everything else to get that to those people who are furthest, to those people who are most sick, spiritually ill, sleeping. He also needs this third koach of the ability to take what he knows and to constrict it and to enclose it so that every person can understand him at their level, not just understand superficially, but to be understand in a way that transforms them. How does a person do that? That you have one person, he doesn't know anything. So how do you teach him? Because Rabbi Nachman says that person needs the greatest light, the one who's the furthest. So if he needs the greatest light, and to have the greatest light, you need to have attained the level of the greatest tzaddikim. So how are you going to get to the person who's furthest? And the answer is you need to be a master of enclothing the things that you know. You need to be a master of constricting that light for the different vessels in which you're trying to shine into. And to have all of those different abilities, from the ability to know, to the ability to have that ratzon and that self-sacrifice to want to give to those people who are furthest, and also to have the mastery, the knowledge, the intuition, the connection to people, to be able to know exactly what that person needs and to be able to give it to everybody at their level. This is the tzaddik emet. And there's not many people like that, even amongst the tzaddikim. And we're saying that this is the whole concept of Hanukkah, that Hanukkah is really the concept of the tzaddik emet, that at the end of time, you have a great tzaddik who comes and he wants to shine that light down to the darkest places, and you don't even have to leave to come get it. You could sit wherever you are, in whatever darkness that you're in whatever challenging situation that you're in whatever mess that you're in whatever depression that you're in whatever connection you have to external forces which are weighing you down, with substances, with family dynamics. And that tzaddik can go right to you there, and he will speak to you. And you don't even have to leave to find him. This is Hanukkah. That from the greatness of the strength is able to illuminate even to the lowest level. Because of the greatness of his strength, he's able to illuminate even the smallest, even if it's something unconscionable, how far this person is. Addiction to drugs, substance abuse, mental health issues, psychological abuse, physical abuse, neglect, trauma, you name it. These lowest places. Ulerapot, and he's able to heal them. Afilo acholim agadolim bayoter. Even those people who are even sicker than that. Shezev bechinat halakat enei Chanukah lamata me'ashra tefachim. And this is the reason that the lighting of the candles needs to be below 10 tefachim. Because we know, according to Chazal, for something to have kedusha, it needs to be above 10 tefachim. The reason is because, according to Kabbalah, 10 is the concept of kedusha. It connects to the 10 sfirot. So whenever you have the number 10 or greater, you have entered the realm of kedusha. Anything less than that is a concealment of godliness. You have removed yourself from that place. But Hanukkah, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you must light under 10 tefachim. You must. Why? Because the whole ikar of Hanukkah is that this miracle is that there is a tzaddik, that there is a light which can light your candle through constrictions, which is the wick, that it's small, it's thin. Therefore, the fire ends up getting diminished. But along it getting diminished, it also is able to have an illumination with you in your life. Because as long as the fire is limitless and dimensionless, you don't benefit from the fire. But when the fire goes onto a wick and it's constricted, and not only is it constricted, it enters into your house, and not only does it enter into your house, below 10 tefachim, meaning in whatever horror, whatever trial, whatever tribulation and challenge that you are in, no matter how far you are from Hashem, he goes there. That light goes there. And it's no coincidence that Rabbi Nachman, he used to talk about himself, and he used to refer to himself and his students well as the light of the 7 days of creation. Now, why did his Rav Natan refer to him constantly as the light of the 7 days of creation? Because we know that that was the light that shone to Adam Arishon. And that was the light with which Adam saw from one end of the world to the other. And that was the light that was hidden and concealed away for the tzaddikim in the future. And Rav Natan is saying, you know what that light is? Rabbi Nachman, Nachman Meuman. It's Rabbi Nachman. He's that light. And he's not waiting for the tzaddikim in the future. He's going to everybody. And that's the whole miracle of Hanukkah. Now, even though this is just on Hanukkah, so let's see what he says here. This is the concept of the pasuk in Tilim. Gam ki elech begetz hamavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Also thus, that we go into the valley, tzalmavet, it's a conjunction of two words, that is tzal, which means shade, mavet, death, the shadow of death, lo irara, I'm not going to fear any suffering, I'm not going to fear any evil, any bad, any horror, ki ata imadi, because you're with me. This is the concept of the pasuk from Micha. Ki eishe b'choshech, because even though I'm sitting in darkness, Hashem orli, Hashem is my light. Shemam shichina or shel hasagut elokut lamata, be'omek hachoshech, that draws the light of divine consciousness below into the depths of darkness. B'chinat gates hamavet. That's the concept of the valley of death. It's referring to those people who are mamish in complete concealment and sleeping, that their spiritual sensitivities have been exiled, and they are immersed only in the physical world, and as a result of that, experiencing all of the inner turmoil that comes with that, all of the tohu vavohu that comes with that. That is the gates hamavet. La'ir la'nemuchi me'od me'od. And he comes to illuminate those dirty, very, very, very dark places. That he's able to extend to them and have them reach this illumination. And this da'at, this consciousness from Hashem himself, in order to heal them, utakantem, and to rectify them, and to return them to him. So this is the end of Yud in Likutey Halachot. And now what we're going to do is we're going to move into a very interesting side path of Hanukkah. And that is that there is a difference in the Gemara of how do we light. You know, even as a child growing up, I always lit Hanukkah candles. Now we lit electric Hanukkah candles because I didn't know then, nor would I have cared, that the way you're supposed to do it is there's supposed to be an actual fire. But still, we did do it the right way, meaning in that the lights increased. That you start with one light, and then it becomes two, and then it becomes three, and then it becomes four, and then it becomes five. And as a secular Jew, you never think anything of it. It's beautiful. It makes sense. It's nice. We got gifts as a kid. It was my favorite days of the year. All the different video games I got, thank God, for my parents, and wrestling, WWF action figures. But what is this concept of the lights going up? So actually, if you see in the Gemara, it was not so pashut that the lights went up, because that was only one opinion. There was another opinion that the lights should actually decrease as time goes on, not increase. You should start with 8 and go down to 1. So let's see what is the deep secret here of why we actually paskin. Why do we go according to Beit Hillel, who says that we should go up in light? And what does that have to do with everything that we've learned so far about this concept of this genuine tzaddik, this genuine spiritual master, who all of his efforts are only to lift up those who are furthest, to heal those who are sickest, to bring joy and life force and faith to those people who this is most concealed from. This is one of the most famous machlokit in the entire Gemara. It's in the Masechet Shabbat. That is between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. So if anybody doesn't know, just as a little bit of a background, because it's very interesting, it's said in the Gemara that prior to these two figures that are known as Hillel and Shammai, there was no machlokit. People did not argue over what is the truth. What is it that Hashem wants from us? It was crystal clear. However, through the exile that took place, there began to be dispute. Now, obviously, we know that as a result of this dispute, one of the greatest things that ever happened, that's called Talmud Bavli, right? The Gemara ended up coming out of that. And this, in the end, even Rabbi Nachman says, is the tikkun for the whole exile. It's the song of the night, like he says in the third Torah of Gemara, Likutey Halachot, that the Gemara is the song of the night, which is the tikkun for the exile itself, because it itself is called nighttime. But it's the holy nighttime. But still, obviously, ultimately, when Mashiach comes, when there's Geula, there will be peace. That means that there will be no longer be machloket. But this machloket was the Shem Shemayim, meaning that Hillel and Shammai, even though they had complete different opinions about often many things, they had the highest level of respect for each other. And this is the difference between, let's say, machloket of Hillel and Shammai, which is the holiest, purest opposition or argument that you could have, because both of them were coming, what we're going to see is from the root of their souls, that because they had different roots of their souls, which the Arizal actually brings down, that one comes from one side of the tree of life, and the other one comes from the other. This was the source of the differences in which they perceived how we should be connecting to Hashem and what Hashem wants from us, not because either of them are wrong, they're both right, but because that they are projecting from a different space of godliness. And we end up learning from both of them. It's taught in Kabbalah and Chassidut that in fact, even though we follow Beit Hillel in this world, which we're going to find out why right now, that we actually will follow Beit Shammai in the time to come, after the coming of the Mashiach. Okay, and we're going to actually get a window into why that is right now. But they had the greatest reverence and respect for each other, even though they did everything completely opposite. They saw Yiddishkeit completely differently. They saw what was essential within themselves and amongst the Jewish people in a much different way. And to this, we'll also get to see, I believe, as I was reviewing this lesson for the class right now, what is, so to speak, the difference between the view of Rabbi Nachman and the Baal Shem Tov about how we should be proactively trying to help those people who are furthest versus the more traditional yeshivish way of approaching those people who are far from Hashem. This is the concept of the argument between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai omrim, that he says in Masechah Shabbat, poteach v'holech, that you should start with the most lights and decrease as the days go on. You start with 8 on the first night, and you go down to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And obviously, everybody knows that's not what we do. Why? Because Beit Hillel omrim, because Beit Hillel says mosif v'holech, that you increase the amount of lights as time goes on. That you start with 1 and you make more and more and more and more. So what was the whole secret? What is the whole deeper reason why they had this argument? Ki Beit Shammai lo tameh, because Beit Shammai went according to his taste, his reason. Ki amru b'bteinu zal, because it says about it said about Beit Shammai himself, Shammai haya pakdan. That Shammai himself, he was pakdan. What does that mean, pakdan? To be makpid with yourself. It means that you are vigilant and you hold yourself to a very high standard, and you hold everybody else as well to that same standard. This is to be kaptan. And this was Shammai. Shammai held himself to the highest standard in every single way, spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and he held everybody else to that very same high standard. And as a result of this, Rav Natan Zal is teaching us, this is the reason why he said that we should decrease the lights as time goes on. Like it says there, that when people came to him, that Gerim came to him, converts, people who wanted to convert to Judaism 2,000 years ago, they had a yearning to get close to Hashem, that they had a spiritual awakening, and they realized that Hashem exists, and they wanted to get close to Hashem. What would Beit Shammai do? One of the greatest tzaddikim in history, and one of the biggest tzaddikim in the generation, he would take his measuring stick, his ruler, and he'd keep them at arm's length. Why would he do that? And this is the reason. Because he was pakdan. Because he was kaptan. Because he was so meticulous, because he was so, he held himself to such an exacting standard and everybody around him, he didn't have patience for people who were far from Hashem. Aval Hillel, however, Hillel, ayade godel anevatunoto, kervam barachamim. However, Hillel, because of his humility, his tremendous humility, meaning that Hillel, even though he had also achieved a tremendous spiritual level on the level of Beit Shammai, but he didn't attribute his level to his own doing, nor did he attribute the level or the lower levels of others to their own doing. Rather, because of his authentic humility, realizing that everything was only whatever Hashem wanted it to be, then there was no difference between him and the Ger. Then there was no difference between him and the Baal Tshuva. There was no difference between him and the person who was on a lower level. That even though they were in a very dark place, he desired to draw them close regardless, because he had empathy for them, because he understood that there really is no difference between him and them, except for the fact that Hashem chose that he should be awakened, and they at this point had not been. So therefore, what was his yearning and desire? Was to draw those people close, the same people that Shammai pushed away. Ramru devarim zarim v'shigayon. And even though they said bizarre things to Beit Hillel, and they demanded things to him that were chutzpahdik, and they said things to him that were outrageous, that Beit Shammai would have no patience for. Hillel lalamdam, what would they ask him? They asked him to teach them Kol Torah k'shomdim ala regel achat. That the ger comes over, the person who wants to be close to Hashem, and we know that Rabbi Nachman says whenever the Torah, specifically his Torah, speaks about the ger, it's also talking about the Baal Tshuva, that when he starts to want to get close to Hashem, he still has a lot of arrogance. Why? Because the main difference between a person who's close to Hashem and a person who's far is usually this one ikar. That in the secular world, what is the main thing which is stressed? That is the fulfillment of self. That you should achieve and actualize yourself. That is your main priority in your life. And anyone who's not a part of that falls away, or has to be walked over or stepped on. But the Torah teaches that actualization of self is not the highest goal. It's actually the lowest goal. The highest goal is to become selfless, to connect to the light of Hashem, which is endless, which has no limits. And for you yourself to rise above your own limited ego and to help everybody along with you in that this is the highest goal. Regardless of what ends up happening to you or what happens to your brother, what happens to this, what happens to this. This is why, according to halakha, you're not even allowed to open up a business of the same exact accord as your friend next to you, because you are competing with him. But that doesn't make sense according to capitalism. It should be that I can. Why? Because the strong survive. And it's going to encourage him to want to grow more. And he's going to have a better product. And I'm going to have a better product. But what is this all based on? The strong survive. Where does the strong survive come from? It comes when you don't believe in Hashem. Because as long as you don't believe in Hashem, then for sure you need to do whatever you can to survive. Because if not, you have nobody to support you. You have nobody who's taking care of you. You have nobody who's creating good for you in circumstances you in your life. That's scary. Now I'm going to have to do whatever I can in this dog-eat-dog world. But if I know that Hashem is the cause of my livelihood, and I know that Hashem is the cause of my health, and I know that Hashem is the cause of who I get married to, and I know Hashem is the cause of what kids I have, and I know that Hashem is the actual primary cause of everything that takes place in my life, then I don't need to always be trying to overcome or one-up anybody. And in fact, my whole orientation to those people who I would normally perceive as threatening, I don't have to perceive that way now. Why? Because they have their portion that Hashem gave them, and Hashem gave me mine. So if this person, let's say for instance, he goes and he's a real estate agent, and I teach Torah, and this guy's a lawyer, and this guy's a doctor, and this guy's a janitor, and this guy's a garbage truck driver. So everyone has their portion in their life. Obviously, these are all physical. I'm just talking about occupations. Obviously, we can go spiritual as well. That this guy likes learning. This guy doesn't like learning. He likes praying. This guy doesn't like praying or learning. He likes to mechazik Jewish people. This guy doesn't like doing any of those things. He likes to be alone and to sit alone and meditate. This guy doesn't like to do that either. Whatever. But everybody has their specific, unique chelik. And for anybody to spend time thinking about, well, why didn't you make mine like theirs, is a waste of time. Because Hashem made you for a specific reason. And when you know that, and you know that there's no deficit in you because he made you that way, that is your perfection, and that the fact that that person's like that is his, and they don't work against each other. They work together with each other. Like the Tanya says, that if you saw all the souls of Klal Yisrael, you could, so to speak, have a window, a special mirror, or a special looking glass into all the Jewish people at the level of their soul, not at the level of their body. You would see that we form one huge, so to speak, human body of soul. Meaning that some of the Jewish people will make up the head of that body. Some of the Jewish people will make up the heart of that body. Some people will make up the thighs of that body, the feet of that body. And when you're able to see clearly like that how ridiculous it would be, absurd it would be, for the thigh to say, why am I not like the foot? Or the foot to say, why am I not like the hand? Or the hand to say, why am I not like the eyes to the ears to the mind to the hair? Because each of them serves a specific function. And you need each and every one of them. That if you have a head that can contemplate, but you don't have hands that can carry out, so the head doesn't want that. The head wants hands that can carry out. And the hand doesn't want that he shouldn't have a head because it has no guidance. It has no direction. It has no higher consciousness in which to infuse the hands to be able to make the work that it does precious and valuable and everlasting. And when you can see truthfully like that, then I want to bring everybody close because everybody needs to be a part of that body. You know, there was, I believe there's a famous story. I think it was the Baal Shem Tov. It was a very unusual story. Usually, you know, he never gave up on any Jew. And that was his main thing because he's this concept of the tzaddik emet. That he goes down to reach down and to try and help every single Jew no matter where he is. And he sees the value and the godliness in everybody. But there was a situation where apparently it was years and years worth of this person, not just obviously struggling, which is fine, but creating trials and tribulations for the rest of the Jewish people themselves, that he was, so to speak, their worst enemy, that after years and years of this, I guess the Baal Shem Tov, through his own divine perception, realized that he actually could not be saved, which obviously this person would have had to get very, 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 very far to be in that place. And they said that they saw him and he was crying and crying and crying. And they asked him, why was he so upset? And he said, because as long as a person, he still has one of his limbs, even if his limb is damaged, there's always a hope that it can heal. But once that limb is removed from the body, it can never heal. So this was the whole entire perspective of Hillel, that every Jewish person is a limb, is a part of the body of the Jewish people, and therefore everybody can come close to Hashem, and everybody can come close to their true selves. And therefore, even when they asked him to teach the whole Torah in 1 foot, which is ridiculous, because if anybody knows, the Torah itself is about at least 10,000 pages worth of just the essential things that you need to know. And these are not the small pages that you see, let's say, in a little newspaper article. These are pages if you see the books over here, these books are gigantic with little fine print. And that's only what's written. Then you have much, much more than that. To teach the whole thing on one foot, to ask somebody to do that is insane. And still, afal pikein, lo pachadam. He didn't push them aside at all. V'kervam b'chuchmato, and he drew them close with his true, genuine wisdom. Va'anavatunoto hanifla, and with his wondrous humility. That in combination between his humility and his incredible God consciousness, his incredible perceptions and intuitions, that through that he was able to take that chokhmah and his humility and to draw them close. V'alken Beit Shammai, and therefore Beit Shammai, right, the students of Shammai, Shel Talmidei Shammai, that they were the students of Shammai, Shemigodel tzikato ukadushato, lo haya yechol lisbo et harachokim hama valuch lachim b'chatot neorehem. That because they took on, so to speak, Shammai's character, his personality, his vigilance, his fire, to be able to grow spiritually, and his exacting nature on himself and on those around him, they also, that they were always growing exponentially spiritually and in their holiness, they weren't able to bear those people who were far, and they were, so to speak, increasing in their darkness. And even a person who's Baal Tshuva, he knows this, that if he ever takes steps, let's say, to really learn Torah, that he ever takes steps to really, so to speak, increase in his levels of spirituality, that when he sees, so to speak, those people who are not trying, or those people who don't even know to even try, so it becomes difficult because there's such a wide gap between you and that person. Even though it might look like it's close, you yourself know how far that distance is becoming created more and more between your friends, between your family members. And it becomes very, very difficult to try and bridge that gap. And sometimes a person may even lack the patience to want to help, to want to deal with those people who, in truth, according to Hillel and his students, there's no difference between them and you, except that Hashem decided to help you, to open up your eyes, and has not yet helped them. But they are just as much a part of the limb of the body as you are. And you would obviously need tremendous wisdom to be able to help them. But it doesn't change the fact that you can't push them away, because there is no difference between you and them. But for Shammai, that they were on fire trying to grow spiritually, and this was their only orientation to the world, to life, similar to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai when he first came out of the cave, that he spent all those years that he was in exile and he had to hide from the Romans, and he spent them in a cave with his son, and all they did there for years, for over a decade, was learn Torah. They came back out, they saw people farming, they saw people making wine, they saw people drinking and eating food and talking about things that are not inherently important. And they lost their minds. Why? Because a person whose whole entire orientation to life for years is just to make tremendous growth, inner growth, and then to see that the majority of the world is not busy with this, he can easily lose connection with those people. But Hillel says the opposite, that the more you grow, the more you have to try and help those people. And this is the reason, says Rav Natan in his genius, why Shammai says that the light should decrease over time, not increase over time. Ki Beit Shammai Beit Hillel, because both of them, Shnei Modim, they both were modeh, they both acknowledged Hosif or Abot or Bechol Yom Sheba Acharav, that as the days went on, the total amount of lights would increase, meaning that even if you're Beit Shammai and you say we're going to start with 8 lights and it's going to go to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, still that is actually a total increase, meaning from 8 the first day to 7 the next day, you have 15. You add 6 to that, you have 21. So even though the lights are decreasing, still the total is increasing as time goes on. And obviously for Hillel, that he held that you actually physically increase the lights as time goes on, there's obviously an accumulation of lights. So they're both modeh. Nobody disputed the fact that there needs to be an increase in the lights as time goes on. It was just the manner in which that was revealed. Ki bavadai hanes shel yamei Chanukah shedalak hanes shelo haya bo lahadlik ki im yom echad v'dalak shemona yamim. Because for sure the entire miracle of Hanukkah was that the Jewish people were being threatened. Their spiritual life was being threatened by the Greeks, who were coming and saying that there's no reason to learn Torah, that we have real modern wisdom now. We have scientific evidence. We have philosophy. We have psychology. We have math and science. We have all of these different new understandings of reality we didn't have before. There's no need anymore for spiritual wisdom. There is no need anymore for inner work, for seeing the world from a perspective of inner consciousness. We understand now physically how things work. So obviously we can see hints to that, obviously blown up times 100 in our generation. And Matityahu, the Kohen Gadol, and his children, they self-sacrificed themselves for the Jewish people. And they said, we cannot continue like this. Even if it means that we're going to get killed, even if it means that our lives are at stake, we have no life without inner life, no matter what the Greeks say. And as a result of that, Hashem performed the miracle for them. And when they won the war, which was mamash a miracle, even after that miracle, when they went to reestablish the Beit HaMikdash, when they went to reestablish the place where the revelation of godliness, of spirituality was deepest, was most revealed, they only found a little bit of oil, but they needed more than that. However, that little bit of oil lasted for 8 days for the menorah. So this is the essence of the miracle. Now, we see there that the light lasted 8 days, meaning that the light continued to increase despite the fact that the days were going on. So obviously, bavadai, for sure, everybody agrees that the light should be increasing through the 8 days. Hanes gadol v'nifla bayoter, because the miracle became greater as the days went on and this oil was not running out. Va'alkem bavada, and then for sure, tzarichin or gadol, you need a great light bayoter, all the more so, b'chol yom sheba achar kach. Every day, more and more and more, you need greater light. Ach Beit Shammai sovrim, however, Beit Shammai held, shemechamad ze ba'atzmo, because of himself, the way that he was, bechamat godela or shenim shach b'chol yom bayoter, that because of the greatness of the light that's drawn in the days that are increasing, mechamad ze be'atzmo, because of this itself, pochet v'cholech, you must decrease the lights. So he's saying, because I understand that the lights must increase, meaning the revelation of light must increase, still we need to constrict and contract and hide that light from Klal Yisrael. Ki ein arashayim v'archokim Kadaish lishtamesh im ze haor. Like it says in Masechet Chagiga, Samru v'teino zal, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem, in the first 7 days of creation, there was a light that shone then, that was the light with which Adam Arishon saw in his mind's eye from one end of existence to the other, that he was completely spiritually awake, that he felt complete devekut, oneness, unity with the universe and with Hashem. He literally experienced that. He could see it. He didn't just believe in it. He mamish saw it. However, Hashem saw that in the future because of what would take place, because of the errors that mankind would engage in as time went on, that this light would be misappropriated, that it would be used for purposes which would not be for the benefit of the person who had the light, and Hashem only wants to do good. So as a result of that, if that light itself, that consciousness itself would hurt a person, he didn't want that. So what did Hashem do? It says in Masechet Hagiga that Hashem hid that light in the future only for the tzaddikim, those people who became spiritual masters, that nobody else should be able to taste it, lest they misappropriate it and use it not for the good of themselves and not for the good of anybody around them. And therefore, Beit Shammai, because Shammai himself, so to speak, held him to the standard of Hashem Kivyachol. That if Hashem says that this light, which is so great, which can heal, which can bring peace, which can bring joy, but it's a very intense light, which can only be achieved through tremendous toiling spiritually, learning, praying, davening, connecting to Hashem, meditating, lifting up your community, X, Y, and Z, through all of these things. So Beit Shammai says, who am I to be different than Hashem? That Hashem hid that light in the future for those people who would be farther. So who am I to come along now when Hanukkah comes? We know that this is a very great light and the light is increasing, that I don't do the same thing. That we don't start with the most light and then hide it, meaning that I'm going to conceal that light of spirituality that I've gained to myself from others around me so that it's not misappropriated, so it's not misused, so it doesn't hurt myself or those as well. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that it wasn't the world Kedai fitting, lishtamesh, to use that light which Hashem used in the 7 days of creation. V'amad ugnazol tzadikim. And he stood and he stored it away for the tzaddikim in the future. Al ken him sovrim. Therefore they held, meaning Shammai and his students, shagam ata tzadikim masigim or gadol tzrichim la'alim or. That also now that the tzaddikim, that they experience tremendous revelations of godliness, they need to now conceal that light from others. That the more that they grow spiritually and attain higher perceptions of godliness, the more they have to conceal it, just like Hashem decided to do in the beginning of creation. That they need to hide or yoter v'yoter, that they need to hide the light more and more and more, the more that they're growing. In order that they shouldn't benefit those people who are furthest in the greatest darkness and concealments from this light, which would then possibly be misappropriated and used in a way to be damaging for them and the world around them. And this is the reason why Beit Shammai held that the light should go down over time, meaning we should conceal the light, that even though the light is actually increasing, we are going to hide it. Just like Hashem did in the beginning of creation. Aval Beit Hillel, however, Beit Hillel and his students, Shem b'talmidei Hillel, those students of Hillel, that they were busy trying to draw those who were furthest closer to Hashem, that was their whole entire perspective, was the opposite. I'm not only not going to try and hide what I have gained, I'm actually going to go to those people who are furthest from wholeness, from peace, from truth, from justice, from connection to spirituality, and I'm badavka going to go run after those people and try and help bring those people back. Al-ken azlei l'tamayhu, that they went according to Hillel, ve'omrim mosif olech, that we're going to increase the lights. Ki adraba, because the opposite. Kol masha tzadikim mamshichin or gadol v'nosap yoter v'yoter. Because what the tzaddikim, that they draw this light down more and more, greater and greater, kamokan, therefore tzarichin, we need to take that light, la'ir ba'olam, and we need to illuminate the whole world with it, yoter v'yoter, more and more as the exile goes on. That the further and further we get away from Matan Torah, the further and further we got away from that original revelation of Hashem in the world. And the more and more it's becoming increasingly harder to experience that Hashem is the one who's causing each and everything in our life. That everything that he does is for the best, only to bring us closer to him. That what we see mamish is darkness, both in the world around us and within ourselves. That Hillel says, Adrabah, opposite. That if the tzaddikim are continuing to increase and achieve higher levels of revelation, which we know that they are, because according to the teachings of the Arizal, that even though the world itself is getting darker and darker, and our consciousness is becoming more and more constricted and sleepier, so to speak. However, those people who decide to run to Hashem, in the midst of that, they can actually attain higher levels of perception. Because why? because they need that there's a higher light in the world to counteract and to fight the darkness in the world. So as the darkness increases, there must actually be a higher light. So now that we have the greatest darkness that we've ever had spiritually, there must actually be the highest light possible. And this is the rachamim, the empathy of Hashem, that he creates the refuah, the healing, before he creates the makkah, before he creates the disease, before he creates the illness. And therefore, now that we have higher lights, that there are tzaddikim, that they have achieved this higher levels in the darkness, adrabah, they have to do the opposite. They need to go out into the world, and they need to get it down to those lowest places more and more and more, the more that they achieve. They need to illuminate the world more and more. They need to draw those who are further more and more. To illuminate those people who have achieved very low levels spiritually, to help those people who are very far from connection to Hashem, very far from an inner connection to wholeness, to peace, to truth. To heal all those who are sick, hagadolim bayoter, all the more so, Rahman al-Litlan. Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we will continue and we'll find out why we end up paskening according to Beit Hillel. And we'll see as well that this is why the whole effort of the tzaddik in this world is to increase the lights. Meaning that I am going to be busy with, as my level increases, meaning the more I become connected to Hashem, the more I learn, the more that I pray, the more I do Ibodadut, the more that I experience that Hashem really is real. And that he really does want to have a connection with all of his children. A deep one, a beautiful one, a loving one, a happy one. That I'm not going to hide that away from myself. That I'm going to, b'davka, make that effort to go to those people who are furthest, no matter how difficult, no matter how challenging, and to try and help specifically those people to come back. Does anybody have any questions from today's lesson? You can ask on the bottom as well if you don't want to write in the class, or you can ask on person. Any questions? Okay. Someone says, hi, I do. Please enjoy Miami. Thank you so much. Bezrat Hashem. If everybody could please pray for me that I'm able to help Makayim this lesson right now. And Bezrat Hashem, while I'm here, to be able to help those people who are furthest. And to have the wisdom and to have the humility and to have the strength, the koach, to be able to help those people who are here. I would really appreciate it. Hashem for sure appreciates it. And I'm going to be here for until Thursday morning. Zot Hashem, I'm going to come back to New York. I plan on giving Likutey Halachot each morning that I'm here at Bezrat Hashem, if I'm able to. That will be at 10:30 a.m. And tonight we have a class, a very special class, with me and Gedalia Fenster. Anybody in the world of Breslov, especially in America, especially those people who grew up secular, so knows Gedalia. Gedalia is an incredible person who has transformed his life, came from very challenging circumstances and flipped the whole thing through the teachings of Rabbi Nachman. And he's helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people literally to be able to find their connection to Hashem and to uplift from theirs as well. And I have the merit and zchut to be here to co-teach a class with him, Bezrat Hashem in Miami. So if you're here, you could attend live. It's in a place called the Lighthouse. And if you're in the Tzion Breslov WhatsApp groups, you'll see there the link for the class tonight, for the time, for the place. You can look up the address as well. And hopefully, I believe that there's going to be a Facebook Live link that you'll be able to watch on this Facebook Live platform. if you're not in the local area. So that's going to be at 8:30 tonight, 8:35. I think we're going to do a question and answer session. That's what Gedalia told me. So that should be very interesting and different. Hopefully it connects to everybody, whoever's listening. And hopefully we can help a lot of people, B'ezrat Hashem. And I plan tomorrow night, I hope as well, to actually do a class with the owner of the Lighthouse Project, the founder of it, who himself, he has a chabura that he teaches Rabbi Nachman's teachings as well to a group of guys. And I hope to be able to try and start teaching a lesson maybe inside with him in Likutey Moharan together, which should be very interesting as well. So just be on the Tzion Breslov WhatsApp groups. Look for notices for the next couple of days about things that are happening, because things are happening quickly. And B'ezrat Hashem, try and watch live. Show your support, obviously. All the Tzion people that you guys since the beginning have been so amazing and have supported us in everything that we've done. This is fruit for all of you. You know, you should feel tremendous sweetness from what's happening now, because you understand, and I've told you many times before, this is about all of us, and we need each other. So last question here, and then we're going to sign off. If one who never suffered from anxiety but lately has been due to recent changes, how can we find Hashem? Can you give some tools? For sure. I've dealt with anxiety my whole life. I was diagnosed multiple times with generalized anxiety disorder. It's something that is commonly found in my family, and obviously it's very common when you don't believe in Hashem, because if Hashem doesn't run the world, then there's a lot to be worried about, and if He does, there's a lot less to be worried about. So what is one thing I suggest? The thing that saved me completely and has given me tremendous peace and has removed a gigantic chunk of my anxiety is doing this practice that's called Hipodadut, that Rabbi Nachman says is the most important thing that a Jew can do. That is that he takes the time every day that he talks to Hashem and releases everything that's in his heart, that he speaks to Hashem in his own words like he's his best friend. He talks to him about everything, what's going on with him, what he's grateful for, what he's struggling with, to ask him for all the things that he needs help with. And this itself, if it's done right, and if it's done for the prescribed time that Rabbi Nachman says to, which is 1 hour, which obviously sounds like a lot, especially in the beginning. But if you make this conscious effort and you understand that this could really elevate you and uplift you from anxiety and sadness, which obviously we take medications for, we get treatments for. I myself have been through countless interventions and treatments to be able to deal with these things. I never was able to see fruit. And this thing that's called Hipodadut literally saved my life and has kept me depression free, and for the majority anxiety free for years now. So this is one thing that I would highly suggest if you haven't started doing Hipodadut, for sure to try it. That if you never tried it before, start today. Take a time today and just talk to Hashem about whatever you want. And you will see that if you speak from your own heart and you don't hold back, you will see that your anxiety will leave you. That's one thing. That's the biggest thing. The other thing is that you should do your best to learn Rabbi Nachman's teachings every day. If you can learn Rabbi Nachman's teachings every day, this itself will take away a lot of the anxiety, because Rabbi Nachman is a master of getting you to not just to intellectually know, but to really experience in a palpable, felt way that Hashem is the cause of everything that takes place in your life. And when a person has truly internalized that, not just that he understands in his mind, but he's internalized it in his heart, then as a result of that, there is nothing to be worried about. Because all fear comes from any moment that you don't believe that Hashem is the cause of what's going on. However, if you believe that there is a creator, there is a source of reality that's causing, he's not just allowing things to happen, he's causing everything that takes place, and that he himself is the ultimate good, and he only desires to do good, and that everything he does, as Rabbi Nachman says, is only because he loves you and wants to bring you closer to him, then in truth, there's nothing to worry about. Just like as a practical example, let's say, for instance, after this class, I trip and I fall. Chas v'shalom. So obviously, if I don't believe in Hashem, so I could spend like the whole day complaining about the fact that I fell on the floor. How did I fall on the floor? Why didn't that guy move his stick? And why did I come out this way? And why didn't I go out that way? If that person didn't give me problems last night, I would have been able to go and sleep on time. I would have been more alert, and then I wouldn't have fell. And I literally could waste the whole day worrying and lamenting. Or if you realize that I tripped for one reason, because Hashem wanted me to, because for some reason that I don't understand right now, it's good for me, and that it's because Hashem loves me, and it's in order that I should get closer to Him, then all of a sudden, my whole orientation to that situation changed, and it's not anxiety provoking, and it's not, it doesn't provoke sadness, and it doesn't provoke fear, it doesn't provoke anger, it doesn't provoke annoyance or frustration. It actually creates a new platform to grow from. Because before I tripped, so to speak, there was no impetus, there was nothing pulling me to get closer to good, to achieve a higher level of good. But now that I tripped, and I understand that I tripped because Hashem wanted me to, so now I could say to Hashem, thank you for all the days that I didn't trip. Thank you that I'm able to walk. I never really thought about the fact that my whole life I was able to walk. I never really appreciated I was able to walk. Usually a person only appreciates that he's able to walk when he's not able to walk anymore, right? You made me trip, so now I get a little window into it. Thank you for reminding me, because I never once said thank you for the fact that my legs move, even though that there are people in the world that from birth, they can't move their legs. And many times a person only realizes and appreciates the fact that his limbs move and that it's a gift when they stop moving. However, Hashem loves you, and often Hashem will give you many signs before that happens to make you realize to say thank you first. And not because He's out to get you, chas v'shalom, but because the entire good in your life is appreciation. Rabbi Nachman says the entire life of the world to come, of Olam Haba, the one in which our ancestors are in right now, our grandparents, our parents that have passed away, chas v'shalom, that they're in that place. He says the entire joy of that place is appreciation, that you get to really see everything for what it is, whereas here you don't. Meaning that if you could tap into appreciation right now for what you have, you could taste the joy there. To thank Hashem right now for whatever it is that's going on. And that was prompted by your tripping. And in that sense, tripping was the greatest kindness. And this can be extrapolated and pulled out to anything in your life. So these are the two biggest things: to have a time every day that you speak to Hashem verbally, that the words literally come out of your mouth, you can hear them, that you're alone and you speak the truth that's in your heart, and that you learn from this tzaddik, this spiritual master that's name is Rabbi Nachman, that he is the light of the Hanukkah candles, that he is the light of ancient days, that he is able to shine to you no matter where you are, that you don't have to go anywhere to find this light of truth, that you could sit from whatever place you are, both physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and you can receive the light that you need to help you elevate from your place. You simply have to tune in. So Bezrat Hashem, everybody will tune in tonight and hopefully receive light for themselves and for their family. Bezrat Hashem, we should see the Mashiach and the Geula and the Beit HaMikdash b'merav Yaminu.